Hello, welcome. For those of you used to my pinstriping channel, this is a bit of a departure, but I had a detached retina last summer, and I thought I'd do a video on how to survive the face down, recovery, and just some things you can expect. The doctors talk in doctor terms. Sometimes it's confusing and you think maybe things aren't going well when they actually are. So I thought I'd make this video and hopefully I can help someone. If you watch these videos on my channel, you'll see I need my eyes. During the detached retina recovery, I couldn't tell depth. So I couldn't tell where my brush was. I had to get used to that. There's a bunch of different things that are useful tools during the recovery. So stick around. I'm going to be doing a few jobs around here and talk about my detached retina. I think you might have some time on your hands if you're in the recovery process, so hopefully this takes up an hour or so for you and you understand that it's going to be fine. Don't rush the days away. You're gonna have it behind you. Everything's gonna be perfect. You're gonna see wonderful, and it's really, in hindsight, amazing that someone can fix our eyes. Went to school to do that. How lucky are we, huh? So, all right, come on along. I'll tell you about my journey. Okay, I don't know how it all started for you guys, but my journey started with seeing black dots kind of off here, around here. I thought it was either like a bird flying or a mouse or something running around, spider. And I kept looking to where the black dots were. And there was nothing there. Eventually, I just started thinking like, if something does come up on me, I'm never gonna know because, I just keep on thinking I see things. So I went to my regular eye doctor, the eye optometrist, and he tested my eyes and he said everything was fine, perfectly fine. I went back in a few weeks, he said everything's fine again. And then I finally had to draw out for him like what I could see and I couldn't see, because what had happened at that point is one day it just looked like someone took a shade, brought it down halfway on my eye, and I could not see half my eye on my right eye up. I knew something was wrong. They kept saying something wasn't, but I knew it was. So once I drew it for him, he recommended a retina specialist, and I went there to a place in Worcester, and they did some tests. Okay, what I'm finding is I can't letter and talk at the same time. I don't actually hold my breath when I'm lettering, but I guess I concentrate in a way that's a little bit different than talking. So what happened is I went to the retina specialist and they did some tests like how many fingers am I holding up, and some bright lights that flashed in my eye. I don't know what the hell those things did. But after those tests, they had me in a room. The doctor came in and she described that I had a detached retina and I needed surgery like in a couple days, like no time to really think about it. And that wasn't a big deal. I mean, I knew my parents had had surgery and it wasn't that big. I've had my shoulders worked on. It's like surgery didn't scare me at all. Then she told me that I had to be face down for 3 days, like literally face down, and pick my head up to eat. And every hour I got 5 minutes of my head up. Then I don't know about you, but I felt just sick to my stomach that was going to be a reality. So I said, just give me the surgery, different one maybe that doesn't include the face down, because I don't really feel like doing that. and she reassured me that there was no other option. That's what was going to happen. And she said, you're going to be uncomfortable for a few months. So a few months was accurate, and I was horrified. Called my wife, you know, and it was during COVID, so she couldn't be in the room. So she's out in the parking lot, so I called her up and I was like, you know, I have a detached retina, I'm having surgery on Thursday. And she was very compassionate about it and everything, but I was the one who was going to go through it. You know, I didn't want to, but I knew that was happening. So then they brought me in the room to schedule my surgery. And while I was having my surgery scheduled, the girl told me about the face down chair and the face down pillow, for lack of a better words, that you could use while you're sleeping. I at first questioned whether I would even want that, but let me tell you, you want that. It was a lifesaver. So I got the face down chair about a day before my surgery, and I put it all together and had it set up in my living room for the pending doom that was about to happen. Of course, you just don't know what's going to happen, and it's your eyeball. And I honestly thought that I would have the surgery. I knew about the face down part by now, and I'm like, oh, in a couple of days I'll just be fine and start working. And I scheduled all sorts of work, and you know, I'll be out for a few days, no big deal. Which isn't the case. You know, it takes a while for your eye to heal. So the following Thursday, which was 2 days away, I arrived at the hospital for my surgery. So it came time for the surgery, and I went to the hospital not that early in the morning. I thought it would have been really early, but there was people ahead of me. They got me into the hospital garb, and they came in. They tell you too much information these days. It's like, I don't really need to know every specific thing. You just gotta trust the doctor and know it's gonna be good. But they went over the anesthesia. They went over my height, my weight, how much beers I drink. You know, pretty much all sorts of stuff. And so this is a pretty tricky one. Hold on. Okay, the tank curves and my brush is going, and I'm trying to spin the brush, and it's like the tank's close to you and farther away, so it's really difficult. So the anesthesia person came in, and they said they were going to give me anesthesia that was equal to 2 beers. So while this was all happening, tornado warnings were going off on everybody's phone. And I had surgery before for my shoulders, and a lot of times it's in the basement. So I figured I was pretty safe. And then they brought me for the surgery. Hold on. Oh, yeah. All right, did a good job on that. They brought me to the surgery on the 3rd floor. Then I got a little cranked up about surgery being interrupted by power outages or whatever. You know, your mind's wandering. So they asked me how I was doing, and they had told me the anesthesia was like 2 beers. I said I need another half a beer. And they started chuckling. Then they asked me what I would like for music while the surgery was going on. And I didn't think my comfort level versus the surgeon's comfort level was the most important thing. So I basically said anything but classical, because classical makes me really nervous. And it kind of always has. It reminds me of, like, I don't know, old bed and breakfast and death. I don't know. This doesn't work for me. So in comes the music, and they start working on your eye, and you don't care. You're numbed out. I mean, they have it down. They have some sort of nerve block that they put in that is a shot that does something to a nerve, so you stop feeling anything, and your eye, I don't think, moves, so it's just kind of frozen. They did, however, have a student work on my eye too, which they didn't ask me about, and I think you should be asked about that. But my daughter's a nurse, and she said, no, there's no asking. Students have to learn. But when it comes to your eyes, I mean, I don't know. So anyhow, they did the surgery. All you see is like kind of like metallic coffee stirrers moving around. At least that's what I saw. And then it's time for a laser of some sort. So you're awake and you can hear everything, and they're talking about getting the laser ready, and you hear this kind of machine hum up. You know, it's like powering up the space shuttle. You know, starts getting louder, and they hand my doctor something, and she's like, "Oh, I don't usually use that one. I like using the other one, but you already opened it, so I'll just use that one." And you're awake enough that you're like, you already opened it. I mean, come on now. Like use the one that you really like. Just open another. But whatever they did in there, they did a great job, because I can see amazing now. So you go out of the surgery room, you I can see well enough to see that there's a hair at the end of this brush sticking out. You get out of the surgery room, they put you into your room again, and then when you get out of anesthesia or it wears off or whatever their criteria is, you call your ride. They'll come get you. Bad. So my wife said that I looked the most feeble I've ever looked in my whole life. She says I might as well have been 80 years old. And so I'm 58. So if you are 80, prepare to look like you're 100, I guess. And I just felt, I don't even know, I just felt like beat up and disorientated. And it's not your best moment. You know, you just had surgery in your eyeball. You have to be face down at this point. I mean, you're face down from that moment on for as long as the doctor says. I did meet a guy in Aruba this fall. I went there for my birthday, and he had to do 3 weeks face down. I asked him about the chair, and he didn't even have a special chair. All he did was, oh man, let's fuck that up. All he did was put a chair next to his bed and lay on the pillow. I mean, he was older. Like, it seems to me the older you are, the more crap you can take without complaining. He didn't seem all that bothered by it. He just said it sucked, and that was the end of it. My parents were Depression era parents. I mean, nothing fazed them. And complaining was pretty much useless. Because no matter what you were experiencing, it wasn't important compared to what they went through. Not that they said that, but that's kind of what happened. So now you're gonna have a ride home. My ride home is probably 20 minutes, Worcester to Hudson. Half of it's highway. Well, the person driving doesn't realize that you're face down. If you get car sick, which I do not, good luck. I mean, this is gonna be hell. But if you don't get car sick and you're kind of numbed out, you just sit there, you have face down, you have this little pillow thing they give you to drive home in. And then from the car, you go to sit in that special chair and you rest. I'd say on the first day, don't plan on much. My wife was so nice. She made my favorite meal. She knew I'd be hurt, and she made my favorite meal. I couldn't eat. You know, you're face down. You've gone through surgery. When you are face down for 55 minutes and you're up for 5, your body can't adjust to being face up. So you just feel seasick. So while you're face down, that's the good part of the day. It doesn't seem it at the time. Okay, so now you've come back from surgery. You've spent overnight at your house. You've done the face down and all that. The next day, you go back to the doctor to have the patch taken off and for them to look at your eye. I go into the doctor's office. They take the patch off. They look at my eye. And he's like, everything looks wonderful. You're going to be face down for 3 days. At the time you left the hospital, which in my case was 3 o'clock, at 3 o'clock the following day, basically go about your life. You're fine. Now that's not realistic in the most minimal amount of the word. All right, you're not fine after 3 days. So what the doctor's telling you is medically you're fine. What your brain's telling you and what you see is completely effed up. All right, like you have a bubble. If you have the patch off, you now see this bubble as you walk. It's moving all over the place. You're completely seasick, and it's daunting. You think it's never going to get better. Well, let me tell you something. It's going to get better in a couple days. My brother-in-law had some eye surgery. He told me it was reassuring to hear that. And eventually your brain stops looking at this information, mixes a little bit of it with this information, but you're mostly focused on this information. And you don't feel seasick just with your head up. You just don't feel seasick. You'll see the bubble as you move. You will kind of live with the bubble. It's kind of like a friend, you know. It's in there helping your eye. The longer it's there, the better your chances of your eye healing. And if you need to do anything after the 3 days face down, like look at a computer screen, drive in the car, you know, not you physically driving, but being the passenger, face up. I bought an eye patch. And the eye patch helped your brain kind of shut off this side, although it still looks like a black and white TV not on a channel. It's like that fuzzy stuff with the eye patch on. It's like the snow of an old black and white TV. But your brain starts to figure it out. So I just want you to know that, because it was completely overwhelming for me. And once I realized it was going to be fine, that it wasn't going to be my life, I let the process just take its natural progression. So what we can do now is just talk about a few things that I did that I thought were really helpful while I was doing the face down therapy. And I don't know if your doctor told you, but you're not supposed to be laying on your back at all, even after the 3 days face down. And what I found out was the gas they put in your eye against the lens of your eye will cause a cataract. Because we had this procedure done, we're going to get cataracts sooner than we would have anyhow. But with the gas face up against your lens, that they don't want that. That's where the face down kind of starts, with putting the pressure against the back of your eye, and then when you're face up like this, they just don't want you straight up so that bubbles against the front of your eye. So I'm done this side of the tank. We'll go over to the other side. I'll start putting the red outline on, and I'll give you a little image of what I'm doing. The customer wanted Harley Davidson and Road Glide on this side in large script. It's kind of an unusual request, but I don't care what they want. It's their bikes, so I'll be happy to do it. This is before the red outline, because we're gonna get this, the pinstripe here. I'm gonna match that color, and they want some sort of accenting. This is the side I was doing when I was talking to you. These R's, like, as it spins around, that's where I had to kind of like hold my breath. All right, so a couple of things to think about when you're face down and you're in that chair. I thought I'd need to have my iPad so that I could, watch movies or do whatever. I also thought I'd be reading books, on my Kindle or whatever. You can't read. Your eye is still adjusting. So this eye's perfectly fine, this eye's bad, but your brain's mixing it and you can't focus. Oftentimes I would wake up and I'd like put one hand over one eye and look, and the other one, see what I could see. My doctor finally told me after a couple visits, which I would have liked to know earlier, don't even think about what you can see while the gas bubble's in, because it's messing with everything to such a degree. It has really no indication of how healed you are or anything like that. So what I found was I watched YouTube on my TV, and that would have time go by depending on how long the show was. And it's what you're doing right now, probably. And then there's something online called Masterclass, masterclass.com. You subscribe to it, and you can put the app onto your phone. There's people from all different walks of life. Chefs, actors, playwrights, writers, hostage negotiators. That one was awesome, actually. That give us talk about their profession and things they've learned, and it makes time go by unbelievable. There's a lady that's a instructor on the Peloton that I didn't know. She was in school to be a lawyer, became a lawyer, and when she was in school, she happened to be somewhere where she was taken hostage with a group of people, and she used that information that she learned in school to negotiate her way out of it, and later made her go into exercise and stuff to kind of clear her brain about all that stuff. It made time go by. So you have YouTube, you have Masterclass on your phone, you can watch TV through a mirror. That's okay, that's not as good. And people want to come by and visit, and when they come by and visit, they really don't take your mind off the fact that you're messed up. I mean, they're all visiting and talking and having a great time, and you know that your eye's messed up, you don't feel great, and this type of thing. So it is wonderful. It's wonderful they care, and they'll be like, one of my daughters came in, she's like, "Oh, Paul," like, oh, this is rough, and it was. It made me feel good, that at least someone acknowledged that. But it doesn't take your mind off things as much as you think it would. So then, those are your days. All I think about is in hour chunks. In this hour, what will I do? And once I survive that hour, you're face up for 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, in this hour, I'll do this. You even take naps because you're just still healing. So there's a lot of that. Then when your day is done, you have the nighttime. In the nighttime, you go on to that. One second. You go on to that pillowy thing, which is basically the head cradle and a little ramp. I slept like a baby with that thing. I didn't sleep like a baby after I somehow took off the pillow that's the ramp and didn't realize it, and then it was super uncomfortable because you're laying down, all of a sudden there's this huge thing you're supposed to put your face on that didn't have a gradual up to it. Silly. It's just I took it off. I don't know why I did that. But you're gonna sleep way better than you think. You're tired. Your body's healing. You It's comfy, that thing. Now I have a CPAP. I was really worried that the CPAP, I wasn't going to be able to use that, and then I can't sleep at all. But no, they have figured that out. There's a little like slot for the hose. And they have it all figured out. They've done this before. It's not their first rodeo. So that part's kind of cool. Now I'll finish this job off. I'll show it to you what I'm doing. Putting a red outline. And shadow actually. And then we'll move on to a different job. I got to work on this old car. And we can talk more about it. The next thing that I want to talk about is what your day's like with the bubble once you're done your face down, and like the steps of how you're healing. Okay, so now you're going to go about your life with a bubble in your eye. You're going to be expected to probably go to work or do basic things, go out to dinner, all the things that are part of a normal life. Your body isn't normal whatsoever at this point. Technically, I think you're allowed to drive. I sure the hell didn't feel like it. You know, week one is, it's just, you're still recovering drastically, so don't be discouraged. It's gonna get better quickly, but week one's tough. So if I'm looking at a picture divided into thirds, the top third looks like someone took grease and wiped it on the window you're looking through. Bottom 2/3 for me was like a white arced line and different rays of light and stuff like that below. That's the gas bubble, and that's going to be there for a while. You're going to get used to it. It's going to be part of your life. It's not a big deal after a certain period of time, but it is a big deal at first. So if you're feeling that way, don't worry about it. It is going to get better. What you can do, and I learned this from Kevin Geist. I'm going to put a link to his YouTubes under my description, because that's what I looked at when I was going through this. And what I did find is that I could wear an eye patch. And the eye patch, that's beautiful by the way. The eye patch looks like this. It's really flat. There's cup ones, but I have glasses, so I couldn't really wear those and have my glasses on. You know, you just don't need more crap to interfere with your vision. Popping your glasses out and moving them on your nose is gonna really suck anyhow. So what I would do is this, and I honestly can't believe this was my life, but it was. So I do that, and that would block out here. It's kind of like a black and white TV. You know, you can still see a little bit of that in the mix of what your brain sees, but your brain for the most part is turning this off. And I could go onto a screen and type and drive and not feel like the bubble's moving around and you get you seasick driving around. Go out to a restaurant, that type of thing. Your depth perception's off because you just don't have depth perception really with one eye. I learned little tricks, like I would have my finger out when I went to go grab for my brush. When that hit the table, I'm really close, and you learn like little tricks like that. But for the most part, I would take it off as much as I can. I kind of had this feeling that if I made my brain depend on the patch, then it would take longer to heal. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. My bubble was in my eye for a really long time. I say 8 weeks. So I don't think that had anything to do with it. But I do believe that getting used to seeing with whatever it is your brain's seeing is important. And so I just, hunkered down and dealt with it. The patch was a godsend. It really was. And there's just days that you just need that escape, and you need that ability to just focus. I take it on and off quite a bit. Be on for a while, take it off, put it on, take it off. The people around you, they have no idea what you're going through, so they probably think you're a little, well, because I'm a guy, I believe they thought I was being a baby. Let's be honest, all right? You ever hear of like man sick? When someone's man sick, they're not really that sick, but they're complaining a lot. Yeah, well, I think people around you, even though they love you and want you to heal and all that, might think you're being a little man sick about your eye, taking the patch on and off. But really, the ability to just take it on and off was awesome, because you could just kind of like bear with it, not bear with it. Someday, no one else is going through it besides you. So just do whatever it is that works for you and worry about the rest later. Hotline. All right, I'll tell you the rest in a minute. Week 1 was basically face down, then walking around. You got the eye patch to put on, take off, helps a little bit. Your stamina is not really where it's supposed to be. You can't go about a normal day. That's week 1. Week 2 is a little bit better, and week 3 is a little bit better than that. At week 4, you are now in the complete routine. And that complete routine is waking up, looking out, trying to see, did the bubble decrease, not decrease? Because as it decreases, you start seeing more and more clearer vision, and that horizon line starts going down. So by week 4, it had gone down quite a bit. It was still present, but I was very used to having a bubble. I was getting used to it. Probably, I would say week 2, you start getting used to it. By week 4, it's just part of your life. I mean, this bubble is like your friend hanging out with you. You just walk around, you see it, and it's not daunting at all. You just something that you're used to. So let me finish more of this bike, and we can talk about the coming weeks and the what to expect. So on week 4, I would go about my normal day. My wife would drive me to work. Luckily, we work together, so I just hit the passenger seat as usual and get into work. I'd talk to customers. Customers kind of knew something was up and kind of didn't. And I just scheduled pinstriping and stuff for a couple weeks from now, because I couldn't do it. So I didn't really go into it with people, because I think they would think I couldn't do a good job and would reschedule with someone else. So I didn't want to lose the account. I would just say I was booked. And that worked out pretty good. On week 5, we went to Martha's Vineyard on vacation. And the ferry ride over was fun. It was normal. I had my eye patch on because I'm going to be rocking in the boat and stuff. And it's just easier. And we went out for lunch. Lunch was perfectly fine. I had a couple beers. That was great. We went to the beach, and it fortunately and unfortunately was overcast. I wasn't thinking about the fact that it was overcast, but it was overcast. We sat at the beach. My wife and I could sit there for hours talking about nothing, hanging out. She's really taught me to embrace the beach and being there, which is an acquired thing, I guess, but I can do it with the best of them now. So it was overcast and everything was pretty much fine. Pretty much the rest of that overcast day was fine. I had some beers at lunch. I sat on the beach. We then went for dinner. I went for dinner. I was ecstatic to be on vacation. Everything was going well. I ordered a martini. I have one of those now and then, and I use it as a form of celebration, like something big's happening, and have a martini. So I ordered a martini. I remember drinking it, telling the waitress it was wonderful. I don't remember anything else. I basically fell asleep at dinner at a restaurant at my table. My body had had enough, and I didn't understand the signs then. Very embarrassing, to say the least. And I made it home. My wife and I walked to the restaurant, which was great because we walked back home. And I went to bed at 6. And I woke up at 6 the next morning. It wasn't the alcohol. I mean, it definitely was part of it, but it was that I had done a lot that day, more than I've ever done since my surgery. And I didn't realize that. Luckily, I don't live near there. No one knew me. And I just said, I'm never going back to that restaurant again, and I'm not going to. So, watch out for fatigue that you just don't even realize you're having. In the next morning when I woke up, I went to make coffee, and there was no coffee filters at the Airbnb we were at. So my wife has been amazing this whole time. I decide I'll take the car, I'll go get the coffee filters. It's only a quarter mile away at best. Got in the car, started driving for the first time. Had my eye patch on, confident that I could do it, and I'm telling you what, it was the most fearful few minutes that I had in a really long time. I was a mess. You're not only driving, but you're navigating somewhere you don't really know that well. Taking like time to go out of the road onto the main road. I mean, you couldn't tell if cars were coming quick or not coming quick. You couldn't really tell, like, as you're turning where your car was. I might as well have been driving a moon vehicle instead of my wife's car, which is really nice, and I've driven it a bunch of times, so I'm familiar with it, obviously. This is my face of deciding whether this is sellable or not. In here is pretty impossible. I can take off my glasses. I can see a little bit closer. Alright, I'm gonna do a little bit more. Alright, so finally I get to the grocery store, which wasn't where I remembered it to be. It was I went to an intersection, it was to the left and not to the right. I get in the grocery store, maybe it was anxiety or the seasickness feeling of the bubble or something like that, but I got the coffee filters. I forget what else I bought while I was there, and went back to the house, and I was never more thankful to park that damn car. I'm telling you. I didn't drive again for about the 6th week. Again, everyone's different. I've heard of people driving like week 2 and driving like a long distance to work. So whatever works for you. For me, I was dizzy, and the depth perception thing was not working for me. And you can see I'm used to detail. I'm used to precision. So maybe that's why. I don't know. The rest of the week went pretty well. It was some days of overcast and rain. I tried not to be too excited about the overcast and rain. The other people you're on vacation with are looking forward to their vacation. So I'm trying not to be too happy about a rainy day. You wanted the people you're on vacation with to have a good time too. So sometimes you have to just suck it up and pretend everything's great. And not that they are demanding that from you, because they love you. But the fact that, you want them to have a good time because you love them. I played cribbage, and oftentimes I went to bed early. I mean, way earlier than we would normally. My wife, stayed up and read and was online and doing things like that. I felt like I was letting her down a bit, to be honest. It bothered me that I wasn't giving her the vacation that she deserved. I mean, she works hard, and she's a lovely, lovely wife. And but you have to be okay with what you have to offer that day, and that's what you're doing. You're just being okay with where your eye is. Things that always tasted great, that always were fun, may not be as fun. My wife and I will go to breweries. She might like beer a little bit more than me, or I might like beer a little bit more than her, but we're both okay with going to breweries and having craft beer. Excuse me, but it didn't taste as good. You just don't feel great. You're having a piece of pizza, things that you would normally love, you still appreciate, but it's not your best day. And if you're like me, you're trying to make it your best day. I mean, there's no glory in moping around. So everyone's having the best day they can. And if the people love you and you love them, that's all you can do. To vacation, I went back to work and everything was fine. By week 6, the bubble had gone so small that you just go about your day. You kind of forget that you had a problem. You're not dwelling on the fact that you had eye surgery. You're just kind of going on with life. You're not really where you were before the surgery, but you're not that far away. Went to a doctor visit. Dr. Rodriguez, just the nicest person. She said everything looked great, and I was free to go about normal life. Well, even though I was exercising and doing more things, and by now driving with confidence, all these things. In fact, I drove myself to this doctor visit, which is, in a city. So you're not 100%. You're not 100% yet. The doctor doesn't know this. I would imagine that she has never had a detached retina. So, as I said before, according to the doctor and according to your healing what she's looking for, you're doing awesome. According to you, it's your life, what you used to be doing and all the things you used to be doing, you're about 90%. And sometimes your body is still telling you to rest or pull back. And sometimes it's scaring you because, you think everything's fine, and then there's this one thing that you didn't realize that you couldn't do anymore. So that's not the doctor's fault. But by week 6, the bubble was so minute that when I was pinstriping like this, I'd put my head like this, the bubble was up here somewhere. I mean, I didn't even know it was in there. I could do all the things that I wanted to do. And that is, that's the goal. So by week 6, week 7, you're really almost there, and the bubble is pretty much on its way out. You're so used to the bubble at times. It's almost like Wilson in that Castaway movie, like the basketball. It's like kind of your friend, You're used to it. You've seen it all this time. It starts going away. You're like, well, what am I going to do without this bubble? And the answer is have a damn good time. That's the answer. A little bit after seeing the doctor, I was driving so much that my wife and I got in the car. We went to go meet my son's girlfriend's parents in a different state. So we had to get on the highway. And if you're from New England, it's like the different states, like 20 miles away. It's not that big of a deal. So went up to New Hampshire. We met the people and had a great time. It started raining and it was dusk. Got in the car, didn't think anything of it. I started driving. I couldn't see shit. I'm telling you, I couldn't see. Now, you still have this one good eye that should be seeing all sorts of shit, but it is not. There was road construction and cones. And I was like, get me out of here. And we took the next exit. It was pretty hairy. I mean, I literally couldn't see. And I couldn't deal with it. So I got off the next exit. My wife got in. And that really sucked because I thought it was all over. But there was still some night vision, things like that you don't think about because honestly, I hadn't gone out at night, I don't think, or driven at night previous to that. I didn't expect that was going to be a problem. But it was a problem. It was a big problem. So, I had that on that week, probably about week 7. This is coming out pretty good. Let me show you what I'm working on. All right, so I had done the black lines on this Harley right here. And now I'm putting these gray pinstripes on either side of it. And so, it's pretty cool. What I'll work on next is these lines, on this side, and then the center. So I wish you the best of luck with your recovery. If you have a moment, check out some of the other pinstriping videos I've done on this channel. That's my profession. If you can like them or subscribe, it helps my business. I appreciate that. And lastly, when you're healing and going through this, don't go negative. It's not going to help anything. In fact, it probably hurt the healing in a sense. But our children and our grandchildren are watching us. And if we can go through this and have not that big of a deal when they run into roadblocks in their life, they're going to think back on us and they're going to be like, oh, it's no big deal. I saw Grammy or Grampy or mom and dad go through harder things and they didn't care, so I'm going to go through this. And I think that's really important. And lastly, if you have any questions, just write it in the comments. I'll get a notification and I'll respond to you. And I hope I can help. Good luck. Hope your eye is just amazing as mine is. and you had a good surgeon and a good experience and proper healing. Cheers.